This is across all civilizations and across generations. The history of every society is a history of sports and so many other things. Unfortunately, for a long time, people only looked at sports, as recreation. Maybe that was how sports appeared, and then sports took on the very active character of competition and competitiveness, and therefore began to underscore the point about rivalry. And it became obvious through some of the uses that sports then increasingly came to be put, that it is a weapon that can be used first to pursue one's interests. By one's interests I mean national interests, by states. It can be used to defend one's interests, but most of all it can be used to promote human human integration and shared humanity. It can be a tool of global harmony and the promotion of peace and security. Now, if you take them one by one, at a point when sports had become such a highly politicized terrain, you remember the Munich Olympics in 1972. It became an extension of politics by other means. And you remember the Montreal Olympics that came shortly afterwards, the Commonwealth Games, and how boycott or threats of boycott, became very formidable political tools, extension of politics and of power play. So in a sense, you would say that sports, has evolved over the years, first in its reach and dimension, but also in its intensity and the power that it has. Now that's on the one hand. On the other hand, sports has become, highly entrepreneurial, and therefore it's an economic, some would say it's a business terrain. Sports, it's almost central to everything else that countries do, whether it's advertisement, whether it's whatever. It's an industry that has a lot of money. It controls so huge amounts. I mean, just to see what the Premiership is doing for England and what the World Cup is doing, and all of those things are crucial. Thirdly, sports has also become a social tool. It helps to define people. It helps to, imaginate people. It helps to give people a character, an identity. It's in this regard that we looked at the spaces that people have all over the world, and we thought that sports diplomacy can begin from, if you like, an assertion of a black and African space in the world. People use guns, people use economic commodities and so on, but sports can be used because it's an area of comparative strength and advantage for black and African people, not only in Africa but in the diaspora, in the Caribbean, in Latin America, even in North America itself. I mean, sports is synonymous with being black and African, and therefore it's a turf that we can use to very serious advantage in pursuit of, first, our national interests, but also in pursuit of our collective interests, African and global. I started life out as a sports person, from way back and so on. Well, I was a goalkeeper in secondary school and in the university, and I was sharing with folks at a meeting today that one of the things sports taught me is how not to be angry, because as a goalkeeper I found out that anytime I got angry, I became a loose basket. And, the guys found it easy to floor me and to score and so on. And, it's sports psychology, provocation. So they taunt you, they do things, and then you get provoked, and then you're in trouble. But, sports also helps to, moderate your sense of, competition with other people. Sports usually, especially team sports like football, it helps to grow you as a team player, as somebody who shares in the success of other people, and those things are very helpful. So for me, I've learned a lot from sports. I may even say to you that one of the things that I did much in my younger days, I had a football team. I was the proprietor of the club, and I was the coach also. In Benin, and at Ibadan, I tried to raise a youth club, but these are in the past. If any of them became such a superstar today, they would lay claim to those clubs that we had. But so that's it. How do I manage to do these things? Moderation.
Maybe some other times we have time. This is not. Maybe we'll do another appointment for.
No, why not? I'll be glad. I'll be glad.
Yeah, you're going to try.
Sorry for so I read today that the COVID government already said a shelter of 1,000 Nigerians fleeing war from Ukraine. So these Nigerians are planning to return home. What is the government doing? Trying to make things easy for them as officers.
There's always a problem with war situations. And the problem with war situations is when you uproot people, that have become a little settled in those climes, they always think that these disruptions are temporary. If you are a student, for instance, and you are into your final year or your third year, you're looking at the quick resolution of these things so you can return to school. So for many of them, it's that mindset. It's not anything more than that. We've seen war situations. I myself was in Liberia when the Civil War came, and I know how we all thought. They say, in 2 weeks, in 1 month, the whole thing will be resolved and we'll be back. So many people stayed back, and just refused to leave the country. And this is what has happened. The whole world is hopeful that there will be a resolution, of these problems, and that we can return to our lives. Yes.